Hello. In this episode of the Better German podcast, we're going to talk about German weather words. Words like cloudy, sunny, the sky, and things like that. Yeah, so let's jump right into it. Let's get started. So as always, repeat after me. What I'm going to do though, at the end, when we have gone through everything, I'm going to repeat it one more time. So, the first word obviously has to be weather. In German, this is das Wetter. Das Wetter. And then let's go to the sun. Die Sonne. Die Sonne. You could say die Sonne or die Sonne. That's up to you, really. Okay, and then you could say a sentence like die Sonne scheint. That means the sun is shining. So we need the word scheinen. That's to shine. And then you could say die Sonne scheint. Die Sonne scheint. Then I think the next obvious one would be der Regen, the rain, der Regen. Der Regen. And to rain is regnen. Regnen. Then you could say something like, it's raining. Es regnet. Es regnet. More literally translated, it rains. That's because we do not have an ing form in German. Like in German, when you have a sentence like it rains, you could say like it rains a lot in summer or in winter, and it's raining like it's raining right now. There is no difference in form. The only difference, if you want to say a difference about that, it's either coming out of context, like when you look outside and out the window and you say, okay, it's raining, es regnet, then that's probably enough context for a verbal communication. Other than that, you just do it with adding words. Something you could still do in English, but you wouldn't have to. Like you could say, it's raining right now. And then you could say in German, if you want to say that, es regnet gerade. Gerade means, in this case, right now. Quick break here. So if you're new here, Better German is a podcast and it's a learning ecosystem. We have courses, group sessions, one-on-one resources, everything you actually need to speak German, not just study it. And if you're wondering where you fit in, do you actually know what your real German level is? Not what certificate you have, not what you think, but where you actually stand today. I've built a short placement test that tells you exactly that. And here's the difference. I personally look at every result and I'll send you a real answer. Not an automated email. Me actually looking at your German. It's at bettergerman.info/test and it's also in the show notes. Takes about 10 minutes. Back to the episode. Good. Next word is the cloud. Die Wolke. Die Wolke. And if we want to say it's cloudy, we can say es ist bewölkt. Bewölkt. I don't want to do this too long. By the way, if you're interested in a more complete list of like about 30 words, I'm never doing 30 words in one podcast because I think it's too much for one episode. But anyway, this is part of the Get Talking course. This is a list that we are covering in my Get Talking course. In the Get Talking or Get Talking German course, that is my course for beginners or for people who haven't yet managed to speak. So if you either are a beginner or if you have learned German before, but you haven't managed speaking, then this course might be for you. If you want to know, there's a placement exam available, but you'll hear about it. Okay, good. So let's continue. So if we have clouds and rain, it is very probable that we also have wind. And that is a good one in German because that's simply der Wind. So there isn't really any difference. Der Wind. And then, if you want to say it's windy, you would say in German, es ist windig. Es ist windig. Vienna, by the way, is a very, very windy city. And interesting enough, the name of the city of Vienna, the first city that was here, as far as we know, was a Roman city 2,000 years ago. So it was originally basically a Roman camp. And there was a big civil city about 100 kilometers east of Vienna. What is Vienna now? Anyway, the name of the camp was Vindobona. You would think that it has something to do with wind, but as far as we know, that's not the derivation of it. By the way, also very recently, that's a development of the last few years, they have found out that this wasn't really just a military camp, as they thought, but there was actually quite a big civil city attached to Vindobona, this camp, as well. If you're interested in that, and if you travel to Vienna, you can go to the Vienna Museum that has just been rebuilt and reopened relatively recently, and it's free. This is not usual in the US. This is, I think, the case quite a lot. But in Austria and Germany, this is not the usual concept. The usual concept with museums is that you pay entry. But the Vienna Museum is actually one of those that they've tried a different concept, and it's free, and only special exhibitions that are not free. But I'm going to have actually at some point, I don't think I have it scheduled yet, but I'm going to mention a little bit more about the Vienna museums in the Vienna episode that is coming up. That is episode 77. We're now in the episode 65. So episode 77 is a Vienna episode. All right. So let's carry on. That's windy. And then what can happen if it's windy and raining a lot? Of course, we could have a thunderstorm. And that is in German ein Gewitter. Das Gewitter. Das Gewitter. Now, technically, you don't have to have rain for a Gewitter. You could just have thunder and lightning. Usually we have rain, but for sure we have thunder. Das ist der Donner. Der Donner. And then, of course, we have lightning. Der Blitz. Der Blitz. Maybe you're interested in the weather in Germany and Austria. I mean, generally, the weather in Germany and Austria is not hugely different. Yes, way, way, way up in the north of Germany, it is a little different because they have the sea there, and the only area within the German-speaking area where you have sea is at the very, very north of Germany. And I'm sure that makes it a little different, so it's a little cooler. But overall, the weather in all of the German-speaking area, while not the same at any given day, is similar. We have 4 seasons. We have cold winters. It can snow anywhere in the German-speaking area, more or less. And there is usually more snow in the countryside, in the mountains. So in Vienna, we don't get as much snow as in the other parts of Austria, because Vienna is kind of like the most eastern part of Austria, and it's flat, relatively flat here. So we only have low mountains, so to say. But 2/3 of Austria are covered by the Alps. These are high mountains. Some of the Alps have permanent snow and ice. They have glaciers, even though they are definitely shrinking. They're becoming smaller. But It's still colder areas there. And we have hot summers on the other hand. They're not as hot or as humid, for example, like Florida would be or the Caribbeans would be, but it's hot, and we have summers that can have almost 2 months where we're well above 30 degrees. And I think we even hit 40 degrees for the first time a couple of years ago. We usually don't have 40 degrees, so when it's very hot, it's usually maximum 35. But it's becoming hotter, and it's becoming hotter for long times. The thing that I have to say about Austrian or specifically Viennese summers, but I think it's similar in all of the areas that are not very high in the mountains, it has become hotter, and up until recently, it wasn't quite as hot. For example, in the 80s, we had less hot days than we have now. Not all houses, only the very modern houses, the hotels usually have air conditioning. So if you go to a bed and breakfast and you come to Vienna, you have to make sure that it has air conditioning if that's something that you want. Hotels usually all have air conditions. Everything that is a 4-star hotel or above has air conditioning. But private apartments don't generally have air conditioning. And in summer, that can be very hot, not just because of the 35 degrees during the day, but because at night, it doesn't really cool off. If it doesn't get lower than 20 degrees at night, it's not enough time for the hot apartment to cool off. So when you come here and you come in summer, and this is something that you don't like, then make sure that you book a hotel or whatever your accommodation is, that they actually have air conditioning. Okay, good. So let's do a few more descriptive words. So if it's hot in summer, that's heiß. Heiß. And cold would be kalt. Kalt. And warm is warm. Warm. Then, particularly in autumn, but sometimes also in spring, it can be very wet, meaning we have a lot of rain, and that is nass. Wet is nass. Nass. If it's not nass, it's dry, and that is trocken. Trocken. All right, so let's repeat just the words without the chit-chat, and I'm going to give you one more sentence with every one of the words. So, repeat it after me. The weather. Das Wetter. Das Wetter. The weather is good today. Das Wetter ist gut heute. Das Wetter ist gut heute. The sun. Die Sonne. Die Sonne. The sun is shining a lot in July. Die Sonne scheint oft im Juli. Die Sonne scheint oft im Juli. By the way, I'm always uploading a transcript with the episodes. And usually, at least in Apple Podcasts, you should be able to see the transcript. If you can't, you can always go to the actual podcast page. You find that this is episode 65. So you find it at bettergerman.info/65. And then there is also a transcript there. But there is a transcript, and it is probably a good idea to follow it. You can for sure look up how the words are written there and so on. Good. Let's carry on. So we already used the word in the sentence before, but anyway, shine, to shine, is scheinen. scheinen. All right, rain, der Regen. Der Regen. It's raining today. Es regnet heute. Es regnet heute. The cloud is die Wolke. Die Wolke. It wasn't cloudy today. Es war heute nicht bewölkt. Es war heute nicht bewölkt. The wind, der Wind. Der Wind. Windy, windig. Windig. In Vienna there is a lot of wind. In Wien gibt es viel Wind. So, by the way, I've used this expression, gibt oder gibt es. So, there is, or there are in English, is usually translated, except for in some special contexts maybe, or you can translate it with es gibt. Es gibt literally means it gives. Now, if you ever hear somebody who's not native English saying it gives, particularly who's German, then you know they mean there is, there are. Okay, so once more, when I say there is a lot of wind in Vienna, es gibt viel Wind in Wien. Another way of saying it is you could say Vienna is a windy city. Wien ist eine windige Stadt. Wien ist eine windige Stadt. Good. Then we had the thunderstorm. Das Gewitter. Some people are afraid of thunderstorms. Manche Leute fürchten sich vor Gewittern. Manche Leute fürchten sich vor Gewittern. So literally, sich fürchten means to fear oneself. I guess that's a literal translation. And that means to be afraid. That's how we say to be afraid. Literally, some people fear themselves of thunderstorms. That's how you would say. I have to take a note of this. This is a German specialty. We have a lot of verbs that they're called reflexive words. We have that too in English. If you say you can wash yourself, and you use this oneself because you are really saying you are washing yourself as opposed to washing the baby or the car or whatever. But in German, we have a lot of them. This can be confusing, but it's only confusing if you don't know what it is. So I just remembered, and I'm putting it on my list to make an episode about that. This is going to take a while because I have a lot of them scheduled. If you need it earlier, I'm starting a VIP podcast membership. So for a very small fee, you can get episodes earlier because I'm always recording them earlier. So you can get access to episodes earlier, and you can vote on the next episodes or on episodes that are upcoming, or put in requests for episodes. And once a month, there is a special episode that is only for VIP members. So if you're interested in that, go to bettergerman.info/VIP. We're starting that in April, and I'm actually making this episode with the verbs that are reflexive verbs, like sich fürchten. One of them that is going to be in there early, because otherwise I just don't have any room in my schedule anytime soon for an episode with that. Okay, good. Let's continue. So we said some people are afraid of thunderstorms. Manche Leute fürchten sich vor Gewittern. Manche Leute fürchten sich vor Gewittern. And then we had der Donner, like the thunder. Der Donner. Der Donner. And lightning, der Blitz. Der Blitz. So, when lightning strikes, you hear thunder. Wenn der Blitz einschlägt, so strike is einschlagen, literally hit in, you hear thunder. Hört man Donner. Wenn der Blitz einschlägt, hört man Donner. Then you have hot, heiß, heiß, cold, kalt, kalt. So you could say something like, it's hot today. Es ist heiß heute. Or winter is cold in Vienna. Der Winter ist kalt in Wien. Last winter for sure was very cold in Vienna. Der letzte Winter war sehr kalt in Wien. The last winter was very cold in Vienna. Warm ist warm. You write it the same way. Warm. The sun was warm today. Die Sonne war warm heute. Wet ist nass. Nass. You could say the floor is wet. Der Boden ist nass. Der Boden ist nass. And dry ist trocken. Trocken. You could say the air is very dry. Die Luft ist sehr trocken. Die Luft ist sehr trocken. All right. So as always, I invite you to definitely go back and listen to it again and repeat the words again, and then make a lot of your own sentences with those words. Actually, if you haven't heard it yet, then I suggest you to tune in to the last week's episode. That was episode 64. And it was about what is real practice for words when you're learning German. And I think it can help you a lot. I hope it does. Let me know. Okay. Talk to you soon. Before you go, if you've been listening for a while and you're thinking, okay, I actually want to do something about my German, here is where to start. Go to bettergerman.info/test and take the placement test. It's short, it's free, and I'll personally look at what you sent me and tell you exactly where you stand and what makes sense for you next. Maybe that's one of my courses. Maybe it's something else entirely. I'll tell you honestly. Better German isn't just a podcast. It's a whole learning ecosystem. Courses, group sessions, one-on-one lessons, mini resources, but all starts with you knowing where you actually stand. And if you're enjoying the podcast, share it with someone who's trying to learn German. That's the best thing you can do for me and maybe for them too. The link is in the show notes, and see you in the next episode.